For you so far, what has been a high point and what has been a low point? Maybe I'll ask the low point first.
Okay.
During this pandemic.
I guess the low point is not a single low point. The low point is noticing the difference, particularly when at the celebration of Mass, when you're looking out at a camera instead of a congregation of people.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, it's a constant sort of reminder that we're in a difficult and rather trying time, uncharted waters, as they say. So comparing what we had on Ash Wednesday to what was celebrated on Good Friday and subsequent Sundays and so on and daily, it's just, that's the low. That's the low point, yeah. And you realize, this isn't the way it's supposed to be.
Right. What about a high?
Well, there's some wonderful, the high points are the many, and it's particularly the way in which so many parishes have responded creatively to the situation that we're in. When I see drive-bys of parishes, when adoration in parking lots, the fact that so many parishes are able to live stream, the attendance, so to speak, at talks and retreats that are sponsored by the Archdiocese. These are heartwarming. The wonderful way our schools are continuing to be in operation, even though it's at a distance and so on. These are all very heartwarming, encouraging, and show the creativity and of our community.
And leading off of that, have you seen anything that we could say that we've learned during this time that kind of changes how we are church going forward?
I think one of the things we've learned, I dare say this, is the importance of being in regular contact with people. Many parishes have phone trees. They've been more intentional than usual in saying, being in contact with people, how are you doing, and so on. I think this is something certainly that we've learned. Also, the usefulness and the power of social media as a way of proclaiming the gospel. I find it particularly useful for talks and that, interchanges of that kind. It doesn't measure up for liturgical celebrations, I must say, but there are many other ways in which it draws people together and is a good vehicle for proclamation and for the proclaim movement. I hear we've even had Alpha online.
Yeah.
I don't know how they eat online, but I gather that they've come up with some alternative.
Today we just saw online the announcements about the pastoral appointments, which some people call the priest moves, etc. It's always
priest moves, yeah, sure.
People are always interested because, of course, you want to know: is your pastor moving? Are you getting a new assistant pastor, etc.? Those have come out today.
They've come out today, and people will notice that there aren't really very many moves at the level of pastor.
Right.
There are more moves at the level of assistants, because assistants stay in a parish usually just for a couple years so that they get experience in different ecclesial environments.
Right. Were there any changes because of COVID this year in terms of the pastoral appointments?
The only change I would say is that we changed the date of leaving a parish and going to a new parish.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be sort of the second Thursday of July, and now it's believe it's August 13th.
Okay, so so people
so that was because of COVID.
Back.
Yeah, it was to give communities a little bit of a chance to say goodbye to their pastor and to welcome a new pastor, as opposed to him live streaming the final mass and coming. That's why we did it.
Right. What people are very curious about the process. Like every year we have pastoral appointments.
Every year. That's right.
What's the process that happens? What went through everybody's? I don't know what your process is, or do you have a group of consultants?
I can kind of outline. Usually by the end of January, maybe the first week of February, every priest receives a little sheet saying, what parish you're in, how long have you been there, would you like a move? Do you want to meet with the Archbishop? And there's also a question: would you be willing to go to a serve in the north for a year? So those are compiled. There are these mega sheets, and they're certainly considered. Then, if there are retirements, this past year there was only one retirement. That obviously, or if there's somebody coming in newly ordained, there's a group here at the Chancery that sort of the Vicar General, myself, the Chancellor, and the Vice Chancellor, we sort of draw up possibilities looking at, what's needed, who's asked for a change, and so on. And then that list is revised and revised. Then it goes to the consultors, that group of, I think there are 12 consultors who, for their input. When that is done and it looks more or less finalized, then I am in touch with the dean of the deanery in which the new appointment will be to check it through with the dean. Then phone the priest involved, engaged. Usually it's fine. Every once in a while the priest might throw something into the mix that hadn't been previously considered. And so there might be a change that's introduced at that point. And then they're sort of finalized again by an internal group and eventually sent to the BC Catholic, as people saw today, last night, yeah. and they're published.
Wow, that's a bit of a process.
There's a fair bit of input, and one of the sort of things that is most always inspiring is the spirit of obedience with which the priests take their appointments.
Right.
Sometimes it's what they had in mind or would have liked. Other times he knows and I know that it isn't what they would have put forward, but their willingness to accept pastoral assignments for the good of the wider church and the particular parish to which they're going, that's always very edifying.
Right, yeah. There's a question that we always get, of course, about the easing of restrictions to attend
right.
Mass, etc. People are always curious as to when and how, etc. What are your hopes, expectations?
Well, I'm hoping that we will be able to reopen fairly soon our churches to limited numbers of people. The public health authorities have been fairly clear that they're not going to want gatherings of more than 50 for a while. But I think that as soon as it's becoming evident that we're opening up, and it is becoming, then we will make plans to reopen our churches to allow 50 people to be present in most churches. Very small churches, physical distancing might not be available.
Right.
We're also looking at how will this happen? Who will the 50 be? How will this be controlled? The sanitation methods that have to be put in place. Probably a different way of receiving communion, perhaps after Mass, so that the cleansing and so on can take place if necessary, which would be interrupt the flow of the Mass if it was sort of at communion time. So there are a lot of those considerations. We're also, of course, concerned about rite of initiation.
Yeah.
I imagine that will be with smaller numbers of people. If in some parishes there might be, if there are 4 or 5, probably could be handled. But if it's a large, some parishes have 40 or 50.
Yeah.
That couldn't be done at once given the gathering restrictions.
Right.
It's the same for confirmations.
Yeah.
And so on. I doubt if we'll be able to have large confirmation classes this year. Until the end of June.
Right.
Maybe a parish if they have maybe 4 or 5 children, but other than that, it's tough.
We've had questions from people online. How can we better support our priests in this time who are probably dealing, this question was about correspondence. They're dealing with a lot of correspondence, personal correspondence on a level that probably many haven't had before.
I'm sure, particularly email.
Yeah, and asking how they can get involved in their parish when, of course, there's not a lot of parish hub activity.
Many parishes have engaged a large number of volunteers. Volunteers, I know there are phone trees, there are people who are getting more information from parishioners. Perhaps they hadn't before given anything more than their phone number or address, getting their email. There's people who are delivering goods, groceries and so on to older parishioners. There are ample opportunities, I think, still for engagement. Also, the many online possibilities offered by the Archdiocese and
Right.
some parishes. And of course, people should pray for their priests. And if they want to send them little, emails of encouragement, or I suspect in some parishes, the odd lasagna dropped at a parish rectory door wouldn't hurt
Right.
either.
And lastly, we've heard from others, bishops and so forth, that you are an expert when it comes to making smoothies.
Oh, how did you know?
So
I am.
We have a question as to what's your favorite smoothie? Do you have smoothies every day? Is that a?
I had a smoothie today. I do, in fact, have one every day for breakfast.
Oh, okay.
You want a recipe?
Yeah. What's your favorite?
Okay. Well, I do different ones, but every day it always includes at least 2 egg whites, a banana, blueberries, usually perhaps raspberries or strawberries, depending. Today I put also melon in because there was melon around. The odd time on a great day there's a mango. Yogurt, Greek yogurt, a little, one of these powders for fiber.
Right.
And then whip it up, and I have a fairly healthy glass. I think it's healthy. Maybe somebody tell me there's too much fruit sugar or something.
Well, we've heard from others that they're very good. So
They are
you must be doing
very
well.
good, and that's breakfast.
All right.
Great.
Thanks for this, Archbishop.
Thank you very much, and thank you, McConney, and to the communications folks of the Archdiocese for sort of being out there and making sure that people stay connected with their parish and with the wider church.
Right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.